So, good evening, everyone, and especially students who made it to the final lecture today. For those of you who are here from outside IIT and for the first time, this course is a part of the National Resource Center for Value Education and Engineering. So, it's an open elective. Students get to do this course by choice and they are graded for it. So, this course counts towards the degree fulfillment criteria of BTech, MTech, and PhD degrees as applicable. The course came into existence almost spontaneously and without much effort. So that is the unique thing. When we talk about grace, grace dwelled on IIT in a way that faculty members found value in Ramana Maharshi's teachings, got together first. All of them engaged with the teachings, and once they found that there was value, then a course was created. And the whole intention of the course is to have students look at something which they are not normally used to looking at. And the intent is to keep the teachings as pure, as clean, and as untainted from any influence as possible, to the best of our ability. To that end, we try and connect with Ramanasramam and also with Dr. Venkat Ramanan, who is with us today. And he's been here as guest faculty for 3 runs of this course, so that we continue to do course correction, if any, wherever required, and make sure that we are fully committed to practicing the teachings the way Maharishi intended we should practice. So for the students here and for many people who may not know about Dr. Venkat Ramanan, so Dr. Venkat Ramanan is the 4th president of Ramanasramam, Sri Ramanasramam. He's a doctor by profession. He graduated from the University of Baroda and after that went to the US to qualify for practice in the US in internal medicine, and he was practicing there for 25 years, running a successful practice before making a choice to be back here in India to manage affairs of the ashram in Tiruvannamalai. I've had the opportunity of being in Tiruvannamalai, and when I've been talking to you about silence, I mean, if you want to experience a deeper level of silence, then whenever you have an opportunity, find the way to be there in the pristine presence of Arunachala. And Ramana Maharshi regarded Arunachala as his guru. So there is something divine there, and he encouraged people, if you can make it, be there. So with those words, I would now request Dr. Venkat Ramanan to deliver his talk on 40 verses on reality, a primer to self-realization. Thank you.
Thank you. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Dear blessed Atmans, and a big shout out to all the bright students who are all here from 2 days ago. And a warm welcome to all of you. And you truly reduced the age group in this building by 70%, I think. So warm welcome to all of you. Today I'm going to present to you in the next hour and a half why this 40 verses on reality is, which is also a primer to self-realization, is a true way to one seeking permanent happiness. So let's get started. Now, this is are the gates to Ramanasramam that Professor Bhupinder talked to about, and I hope each one of you will enter these gates one day. And trust me, you will not return disappointed. Friends, I want to introduce you again a few words about Sri Ramana Maharshi. He was born in 1879, and he, at the age of 16, as a young boy, he attained self-realization and moved to Arunachala, the foothills in Tiruvannamalai. For the next 54 years, he did not leave the place, and his living presence continues to emanate from the foothills of the Arunachala at Sri Ramanasramam. His teachings transcend religious boundaries and offer a universal approach to self-realization. His guidance remains relevant in a world which faces stress, alienation, and loss of spiritual connection. This is the Samadhi Hall of Sri Ramana Maharshi, the shrine, where if you come on a typical day, you will find several hundreds of people quietly sitting, meditating. You will find people from almost 120 countries sitting quietly there, pursuing their self. The teachings of Ramana Maharshi provide clarity and purpose in today's complex world. His simple yet transformative ideas offer a profound guidance to young and old alike. For the Atman, our consciousness has no age. It is eternal. So it does not recognize any age. Friends, let us explore today, in the next few minutes, how his wisdom can help one to lead an authentic and meaningful life. And this is another view of Ramanasramam. You'll find a lot of peacocks, monkeys, a lot of rich fauna, flora in the ashram, and which seamlessly blends with human beings. Now, let us come to, as you would have read in many self-development books, the why of why we do things is more important than the how, because the why never changes. If the goal we are clear, the methods will keep changing. So why are we constantly seeking happiness and validation? Sri Ramana Maharshi reminds us it's because happiness is our true nature. All of us, each one of us, even including animals, want to be happy. It is not wrong to desire it. But what is wrong is seeking it outside where it is not. Because as we are going to discover in the next few minutes, it is in our inner hridayam and where it is our fundamental nature. Self-realization is discovering the source of lasting peace, eternal peace within each one of us. This is the holy hill Arunachala, and the ashram is at the foothills of the holy hill Arunachala. Friends, his teachings are as relevant, if not more relevant, today than while he was alive physically. For it addresses the search for meaning in a materialistic world. It is capable of reducing stress and enhancing mental health. It promotes unity and harmony in a divided world, and it encourages simplicity and non-attachment. These are themes we did discuss a few days ago, just to remind our young friends. This is the hall where Ramana Maharshi was accessible 24/7. This is now a meditation hall. It's called Old Hall. But this was a hall where Ramana Maharshi was available throughout the day and night. And in fact, his followers, devotees, would sleep at the foot of his bed. And so he's the most accessible guru, was present for his devotees all times of the day and under all circumstances. Now, today my theme is how the study of these 40 verses on reality is a very clear roadmap, a GPS to our spiritual health, to our inner health, into our inner selves, rather. Now, a few notes. It was composed around 1928. And the foundation was, there is a devotee, Muruganar, this is for the Ramana devotees, and they would know, because Ramana Maharshi would use and translate random verses from the Upanishads, and he would just write them into simple language. So this got accumulated, and a saint Muruganar wanted this to be arranged into 40 verses. Then later on it was felt that something original from an original master is more that is needed. So around 1928, he composed these 40 verses. Friends, these were written originally in Tamil, later translated into multiple languages, including Sanskrit. Sanskrit, it's called Saddarshan. It comprises 40 verses revealing the highest truth of the Upanishads. I would call it the essence of the Upanishads. There is a tradition in ancient Tamil. You write two benedictory verses about any poetic composition. The poet will write two verses where they dedicate to their parents, to their teachers and all. But Sri Ramana Maharshi did not. He just condensed the whole teachings of the 40 verses into these two benedictory verses. And I'll just read the first, they call Mangala Shlokas. And the first one is very important, and I will spend some time on that. In Tamil, it's Ulladala, Ulla Unar, Ulladu, Ulla Porul, Ullalara, Ullate, Ulladal, Ulla Menum, Ulla Porul, Ulla Leven, Ullate, Ullapadi, Ullade, Ullal, Unarvaye, Ulle. So, the translation is, there are, Ramana Maharshi used the word Ulle. That is, Ulle means inwards. So, using connotations of that word, he has made it into a poetry where he uses this word at many places, but it conveys different meanings. So, friends, we are all here today because of the reality, the consciousness that is within each one of us. We think we are the body, but what we are is the true reality within each one of us, and that gives power to this body, which we saw in another verse that Professor Godara taught, that the body is insentient. It has no life without it. The human dynamo, the energy-giving source to the human body is the consciousness or the Atman. Or here what Ramana Maharshi says, Ulla Porul. So he says, unless reality exists, can thought of it arise? So because we are metacognizer, human beings are the only mammal that is capable of recognizing its own strength or its own faults, because we have the unique capacity to metacognize. So we know nobody knows more about us than anybody else. So, but here we are going to a deeper level of metacognition where we are looking for the reality behind everything that we do, everything that powers our day-to-day activities. Now, the next sentence, Maharshi says, this place is void of any thoughts. the place where the reality exists, of its own accord, there are no room for thoughts, because thoughts are at the level of the mind. They keep changing. As we saw, we get 60,000 random thoughts in a day, and we are able to reduce it. But we can never reduce our reality into a bite-sized content, for it is eternal, and it is imperishable, and it is undiminishable. So this reality exists with each one of us within our hearts, the spiritual hearts. How does one know the reality we call the resting place of the Atman, the heart? To know that is to simply be that. So there is a saying in Upanishads, to know God is to simply be God. Because we looked at in the previous lecture, God, Guru, and Self are one and the same. We are all part of that eternal, imperishable consciousness, which we call God, exists in each one of us. The same God comes to us as Guru to push us all inwards. He pushes us from outwards, and he pulls us out inwards towards our heart, where we can be peaceful and have experienced eternal happiness 24/7 wherever we are, even amidst this boring lecture, if you may call it. Now, the one unique thing about this composition on 40 verses of Sri Ramana Maharshi is that no place does he mention God, for his whole consciousness was to take us beyond the restrictions of faith, religion, while bringing our attention to the permanent reality in each one of us. For he was fond of saying, if you have a physical form, so does God. But if you are the reality with no form, then God also has no form, and he or she or whatever, it exists in each one of us. And when we realize ourselves, and we realize that we are not the body, but we are the eternal self, we are then one with that imperishable God, and there are no births and no deaths for such a one, for he or she is self-realized. So coming back to the second verse, it's again called Mangala Shloka. So as friends, as we know, there are two methods recommended by Ramana Maharshi. One is the most intellectual method of self-inquiry through the who am I and whence am I. But for people who said, hey, we are not ripe enough, we are scared, and we're not capable of pursuing this one-pointed inquiry, the next thing he said, which was equivalent, was self-surrender or surrender to God. So, and as we found, the surrender is an absolute one. When we surrender to the reality, the God, the self, we are surrendering everything of us, the purest form of ourselves, to that God, that self. And we have to abide by whatever we get in return by God. As I said, God is not an ATM machine. He or she is not going to give you what we want all the time. But in the long run, everything will be right, for it is our self, or whatever you call, our destiny, the energy that fulfills our destiny. So this is a second theme that Ramana Maharshi, the first theme was the most abstract verse on reality. The second abstract verse is the Mangala Shloka 2. And there, I'll just read the translation. When those who are in dread of death seek refuge at, at the feet of the deathless, birthless Lord Supreme, their ego and attachments die. Their ego and attachments die. Now deathless, they think no more of death. So these are the two invocatory verses. And now let's go and see what the 40 verses of reality are. Friends, these 40 verses in reality is like akin to a mathematical theorem. It follows a sequential sequence of thoughts, and each one builds on the previous one, but they're all pretty interconnected. So please stay with me while we go through these 40 verses. So verse 1, the reality that alone exists, that which we know as consciousness, Atman or self, that is beyond creation and sustenance and dissolution. As we saw, there is no birth and death for the consciousness. And this is the basis for all. This is what we are. To know it is to know the self. Okay? So this was part of the first Mangala verse. So this is the consciousness, the reality, and this is beyond birth and death, and it is eternal, and this is the fundamental principle of each one of us. And by knowing that and looking for it and finding it, we know the self. Next verse. The ignorance that gives rise to the sense of I and mine is the root cause of bondage. This is nothing but the play of the ego, which, as we saw, that the fundamental thought is the little I thought. So like, I am Dr. Ramanan, I'm in IIT, I have to impress all these bright minds, and these kind of things, which are totally unnecessary, and we saw those are mind created. What exists is you as consciousness, me as consciousness, talking about consciousness, right? So we are all in one media where we are all existing as one and looking at that one. So this false identification with the body and mind is the cause of bondage. True freedom arises from destroying this ignorance. As we saw, egolessness is fearlessness. So knowing and looking for this reality and staying with it, we are set free from illusions of fear and loss, because those things are only in the mind, and those are only for the ego. For the consciousness, there is no diminution, there are no dissolution, no creation. The world, as we saw, appears because of ignorance of the fundamental source of our lives. The real, as we saw, is that which remains when the false disappears. Friends, we briefly touched it 2 days ago, that when we look for the ego, where is the ego in the body, we saw that it's a covered, it's a phantom, and on our keen looking for it, the ignorance, the ego disappears. And what remains when the ego disappears is the true Atman, the true reality in each one of us. And this remains when the false disappears. The self alone is real. The ego that rises from it is an illusion that we found will vanish on inquiry. Ramana Maharshi is very categorical for that. This whole process of self-inquiry is not trying to find the self. The self is already there. It is just hidden by impurities, which is caused by the ego, the illusions caused by the ego. So self-inquiry is a way of just driving out the imposter in each one of us, which clouds like the clouds which cover the sun. when we try to look for it, the clouds will disappear, and the brilliant sun, the consciousness, will appear, or nay, it is already there. It will just start shining in full form. So the ego arises from the self like a shadow. An inquiry into the nature of the ego results in its dissolution or in its disappearance. The world again appears true due to the ignorance and the play of the Maya, which is again the power of the ego. The real that which remains is that which remains when the false disappears. So we saw this is just a continuation of the same thing. This whole thing is going to keep driving and is going to crack open the ego. By 40 cracks, the ego at the end of this self-inquiry will disappear. So this every attempt of self-inquiry that we are trying to look for the false sense of ego is to weaken its hold over our lives, while we are marching towards the true happiness, which we are, which is our fundamental nature. Verse 6. To perceive multiplicity in the one reality is ignorance. Realizing the one ends illusion. Friends, this is a Vedantic concept that the what was initially created is just one creation, one being. And because of ignorance, multiplicity was created in this world. Now, it's because of our egos that which likes to divide each one of us based on what the ego is scared most of. It'll say, oh, I'm a man, I don't like women, or something like that, whatever you say. And this kind of multiplicity or something, is what creates the in the world and leads to unhappiness, ignorance. But the true person seeking for the reality realize that as we get closer and closer to the consciousness, we find that we are all part of that one original consciousness, and all the multiplicity is just again a phantom, play of the ego, and we really are just the same. We just look different, we talk different, but it doesn't matter. For our inner consciousness, our inner core is one and the same. And what gives us happiness, what gives me happiness, will give you also happiness in the true sense of the term. Verse 7, the body, mind, and ego are transient. The eternal self is beyond this and is the true I. Friends, we saw 2 days ago in the lecture that in Upanishads and Vedanta, for something to be true, it should be true under all circumstances. So we find that only in our waking state, whatever form that I present, my medical degree, my being in Delhi, in IIT, is true, is only relative truth. It's only there in the awake state, what we call Jagrat state. But in the state of sleep, in the state of deep sleep, in the state of sleep, you could be hovering over Himalayas, that with of your best friends, or you could be walking in a beach in America, or something. But is that reality? And say in deep sleep, very deep sleep, which we all like, there is no dreams, right? And that is a state we all feel so refreshed, and we all look forward to that. When you wake up in the morning, say, "Kya acha neend aaya." So that's one thing common to each one of us. We love that. Whether we are, that is so uncommon to each one of us. So But so in that three states, they are not real, because the consciousness is not present throughout. Especially for the spiritual state to be common is there where it has to be true under every circumstance and under all circumstances. So we'll notice this, we'll come to this as we go along. So we find that state where the eternal self is beyond these three limitations, and it is the true I. It is the only truth. Seeking the source of the I thought leads one to the self. As we saw, it is just the search for the phantom ego, and which runs away, and what remains is the permanent Atman, the consciousness, the self, which is beyond birth and death. Same theme, when the ego dies, in reality, it just runs away and it becomes no longer part of our self. The real shines forth as the self, and this is a substratum of all. Verse 10. Friends, again, we saw how the self doesn't need anybody to give any life of its own, for it is self-effulgent. It is not known through our bodily senses, but it is a thing that one can directly experience. And that is what is the thing. The Ramana Maharshi's teachings, the teachings of Vedanta is, as we saw, it is one of experience. It's an experiential form of philosophy. I mean, everything that I say today, it does not make sense unless you have a little bit of experience. Then everything makes sense. For this is, and it is direct. And that's what the Ramana Maharshi's uniqueness is. He did not come to form a religion or a pattern of thought, but he came to transmit his unique spiritual experience to each one of his devotees. And that is the truth which one of the senior devotees will tell you. True knowledge is abiding as a self. Everything else is ignorance. Liberation is not acquiring anything new, but realizing what always is. There's one sentinel statement of Sri Ramana Maharshi. If anything that you acquire new, because anything new is also capable of becoming old, right? Because everything follows a pattern of creation, dissolution, and so anything that is new is not worth acquiring, because we are looking for the permanent source of knowledge. So, and as we know, we are going towards the consciousness. Again, Maharshi says, the ego is the root of bondage. Its destruction is true freedom. Self-inquiry leads to the annihilation of the ego and the realization of the self. This is the same common thread that will flow throughout this 40 verses. That the self-inquiry is looking for the source of the ego, and when we look for the ego, it will disappear, for it's a phantom, and what will remain behind is the universal self, and realizing the self is the only method of permanent happiness. So stay with me. The self is beyond thoughts and concepts. Silence alone reveals it. Friends, thoughts and concepts are only at the level of the mind. So here we are talking about a state which is way beyond it, and at this level of the true consciousness, the self. And this method, when we contemplate this, silence is a tremendous help. When there is mental clutter, even the true knowledge is presented in front of us, we will not recognize it and we will not be able to appreciate it. And this true silence alone will reveal it. And silence is not, the silence we're talking about is not absence of noise. It's not absence of noise. I mean, that you could go like the spiritual silence is way beyond it. This kind of physical silence, you could say go to Antarctica where there's nobody and there is silence. But that's not the kind of silence which is dense, which is going to give you true happiness. The true silence is where our mind becomes still and our mental clutter, our mental thoughts, the stories we tell ourselves stops. And that can happen amidst anywhere, in the IIT halls, in your dining rooms, in your hostel rooms, for the stopping the flow of the thoughts, the turning of the pipe is, tap is in your hands. And as I say, we're going to take this step of 1,000 miles with one step. So that's what I implore you. Try it for yourself. And you'll see how rejuvenating this true silence is. Even on the spiritual path, it will also lead to so much mental clarity, happiness in your lives. Realizing the self destroys ignorance and the illusion of duality. And so a senior devotee today was asking us a question. Somebody asked Ramana Maharshi, how do you help others? Now, do you solve the problems of others? So, what the answer Ramana Maharshi said? There are no others. There are no others. Now, this is not a wisecrack, smart aleck-like answer. This is a philosophical, profound statement. When you're at that state of the consciousness, there are no others. For if you look, say, if we light candle from each other, we are nothing but the same light in that candle. So there are no others. What is the truth is that light that we are holding in each other's hands. So realizing the self, we realize that we were ignorant all along because of the play of the ego, but we are something unique and universal. We are all part of that universal consciousness where we are all one and the same. And all the multiplicity is created in the mind by the ego, which likes to divide and conquer. True, again, now coming to devotion. True devotion is abidance as a self. The worships, dualistic worship, where there is you, there is God, leads to understanding, but it does not lead to realization. For we have to come. Devotion, bhakti will only take us close to the self, and where is the final, what is called the kingdom of heaven, is within each one of us. This consciousness, the universal self. The world, as we saw, is a dream-like projection of the mind, and the reality is a substratum. So we saw that what. So I'm going to introduce you a concept, friends. In neurobiology, neuroconsciousness, there is now a research called constructivism, because the Western sciences are truly focusing on constructivism. Why are they doing? Is because they are finding that the parents find that they had a depressed son who they couldn't see. They lived in the same roof. They had the same high socio-economic level of living. The parents thought they were giving this boy everything that he needed. And one fine day, at the age of 18, 19, sorry to say, takes his life. And then we're like, what was happening there? What really happened? Did we miss something? And that's why there is a lot of research in and this. So what they find is that there is one reality, like we are in this hall. That is the truth, right? And this is evening, it's around 5:30. But we take that image into our retina, into our brains, and then through our ego, our past memory, will create a story that we want to believe. And this is has its roots, evolution roots to the ancestors that we had. For to survive in those caveman days, they had to run, to run from a dinosaur to prevent eaten. So they had to have what is called mental heuristics, shortcuts. So they can't say, oh, this sound can be, or what are the 10 reasons this sound could be coming. No, this is T-Rex, I'm running away. So that's why they survived, and because of that, we are all here. Because the only reason we are all here is because our ancestors didn't get eaten up by a dinosaur. But on that evolution, that mental mistakes is still in our brain. So we do this mental construct. We look at a thing and then we say, no, this doesn't look safe. And whatever our old biases, raat ko nahi jana bar, or whatever we may have our prior experiences. But that is not reality. So it is just a form of how we construct reality for ourselves. And then by doing that, it becomes an habit. And then we fall into the trap where we just start telling ourselves stories. So the neuroscientists, they all say that there are 6 billion people look at the same things in the world 6 billion different ways. For we construct that mental story in our head and then we run with it. So this is what Vedanta says. The world is nothing but a dream-like projection of the mind. So the mind is that projector there and it's projecting on that screen. But the reality, the only reality is that screen. For without that screen, you're not going to read what I'm trying to say. So this is a very good point, a very, very valid truth discovered way long ago by the ancient Vedantic teachers and in many spiritual faiths, where they have questioned the reality of the external world and they all have pointed inwards. As Ramana Maharshi says, the place where all religions unite is in the uniqueness, the permanence of the self. Each religion points to all of us in different ways, but the commonality for each religion is the same, that we all are eternal and we should merge with the eternal self. Friends, self-inquiry alone leads to liberation. No other path is necessary. It's a categorical statement of Ramana Maharshi. Therefore, the self is ever present. Like, as I mentioned, like the sun that shines even it is hidden by clouds. It's only a temporary phenomenon where this wisp of clouds can hide the sun. Once they are blown away by the wind, the sun shines brilliantly. Verse 21, the ego is born of the mind. Destroying the mind destroys the ego. Friends, the ego is the mind and ego are nothing but unnecessary, unwanted thoughts. And once you hit that root I thought that we saw, which starts with the little me, my little story I tell myself, and realize the impermanence, and laugh at it, and then go beyond that ego-ridden creation of mine, and go beyond it and discover the true self, then the ego and the mind are destroyed, for they have no reality. In fact, to even call it destroyed is a misnomer. They will just vanish. That's a word. Abiding as a self is the highest yoga. All other practices lead to this. In the Upadesa Saram, where Professor Godara might have mentioned, in 30 verses, especially the first 12 verses, says very categorically that the actions we do, the karma yoga, the bhakti yoga, the meditations, and other forms of Raja Yoga are only aids along the way which strengthen our resolve, strengthens ourselves, so that we can take the pursuit of the highest spiritual truth, the discovery of the self, also called the Jnana Marga in Advaita Vedanta. And Ramana Maharshi says all these practices, this yoga, bhakti, only are adjuncts. They only lead to the final leap of faith, the leap of inquiry, spiritual practice. Supreme silence is the true state of self. Words cannot describe it. Friends, as we also know, can we describe happiness to your best friends? I mean, you can be it can only be approximated. But each one of us experiences. It's something that is experience. Elation is something that is experience. So despondency is experience. So these are all states words can never describe. And especially the highest truths or of the silence and the happiness, words are only very, very, they're just like torchlight pointing a small direction towards the final path. The world, the ego, and the mind arise and subside together. The substratum is the self. Friends, as we go along in the path, we find that the only truth is our consciousness, the self. The projections, that is the world, or our ego, the story we tell ourselves, and the mind, they all arise when we wake up in the morning, and they all sink when we go to sleep, right? So they all come at the same time. Can you be without thoughts, without your ego? So, no. And the same way, without your mind rapidly jabbing away? No. Because they create our relative reality, and in nighttime, they sink. But where do they sink in? They sink in to the same source from where they arose. And that is our consciousness, the Ullam, the one which is inside what Ramana Maharshi says as Ulladu, the life principle, the eternal consciousness. From that they arise and they sink into it. They do not have any life of their own. When the ego is destroyed, the world disappears and only reality remains. This we have seen before. The supreme state is free of thoughts. Silence alone leads to it. So again, I said that as you become more and more deeper on this path, in fact, I would say even as you approach my age, friends, you will talk less. You'll like more silence because, yes, at this age, you are all bubbling with energy. You need to express, you need to communicate. And the way the world is, the one who speaks the loudest and the most confident appearing gets sometimes the best grades, right? But not necessarily in professional jobs, because the one who does the deepest work is the one who's going to get the fastest way to the top. And how do you do the deepest work? Is by embracing status quo is not an option. As they say, expecting to do the same thing again and again and expecting different result is idiocy. So you are all going to grow as people, and then you're all going to go deeper, and that with your deeper knowledge and your thing. But then you're going to need moments of silence where you're going to be all alone. You're going to solve that unique problem nobody else has looked at. And for that, it's even again, this following such path will help you on that silence, which will come naturally to you when it's just a state of your being. So, supreme state is free of thoughts. For we saw that thoughts are nothing but mental clutter, and they just are not our friends, but they work against us. So, but only silence will lead to the supreme state, where silence reigns supreme. The self is beyond duality and non-duality. It transcends all concepts because it is metacognized. It has got all the truths buried inside it. So it is beyond opposites of yes and no, of light and dark, all kinds of opposites. For it is the only constant, As Sri Ramana Maharshi says, does the sun know about darkness? No, because it's not even in concept to the sun. So it's like similarly to the eternal sun, the supreme consciousness, it is not aware of any deficits. It's not aware of any nascence in it, because for in it everything is contained. The whole truth, which is the self-effulgent energy, the knowledge, is contained in it. So the self is beyond duality and non-duality. And so it transcends all these limiting concepts. The illusion of the world arises due to ignorance. Again, with knowledge, it vanishes. So what knowledge do we know? That this is an illusion. And what is supreme is our self. And that we know that our thoughts are all going to, after 12 hours of waking, they're all going to disappear and vanish and probably make us find ourselves in a different dream-like world, right? So that is the illusion of this world. And then the illusion of the dream world appears till the deep sleep comes. So these are all just concepts. But again, what I want to direct you all is it's at the positive. I'm not here to deny the negative. We can say, I'm not this, I'm not this. In Vedanta, there is a saying, there are 140,000 creatures on this world. So one way is saying, I'm not this, I'm not this. So you can say, I'm not an elephant, I'm not a tiger. But we don't need to. We know who we are. And why not jump directly into self-inquiry? So we don't have to negate the existence of the external world. And we found, or as on that other day, that the world, external world, without the self is unreal. But when we bring in the human, the brilliance of our universal self, that same world is as true as ever. And it will be the truest form of happiness. The real is not separate from oneself. So the real truth is in each one of us. To realize this is liberation. Again, the self is beyond limitations of space and time. It is eternal. Friends, this is a very important concept. For only to the ego there is birth, aging, and dying, and time. The limitations of time are only in the external world that we create. To the permanent, does anything permanent, know about zero? Does infinity or concept of eon know anything about zero? For that, it is just an alien concept. So for the universal self, there is no concept of limitations of time and space. Again, because we are not limited by this human body. We are the consciousness that is universal, and we are the ones who let ourselves limited by this external body. Verse 31, we're doing very well, friends. Thank you so much. Almost 3/4 of the way. Verse 31, when the mind turns inward, reality is revealed. This is true inquiry. I'm going to skip it because, again, this is again re-emphasizing the truth. So only in an inward turned mind, we will find the true happiness, and the reality will be self-revealed. It will be revealed to us by ourselves, by the power of our own cognizance. And this is true self-inquiry. The supreme goal is to abide as the self. This alone is freedom. Friends, once we exist as the self, we don't need anybody to give us any happiness. For this universe self has got anything, So nobody can give you anything that can increase the value of your happiness. Similarly, nobody can take away your happiness. Nobody can give you a fear. Nobody can, because you are beyond limitations. For you are the true universal self. You have found the method of happiness. The method of happiness is always in you, and because the mind went away, you are able to drag the mind and make it disappear. Now you're sitting with beautiful happiness. Okay? True knowledge is beyond words and thoughts. Again, silence alone will reveal it. And again, what I meant by silence is the absence of the clutter of thoughts and our projections of the stories we tell each one of ourselves. We are the ones who limit ourselves, and one thing, having left India in 94 and gone abroad, and I come back, I'm really proud of you young people. You're the most self-confident, and I wish I was half as self-confident as each one of you. We would walk through our medical college with our heads bent down but your generation is truly very self-confident, and I really want you to get the self along with your confidence. Okay? So, but just go along and just our wish is that you should all be eternally happy. The world and the mind are unreal. And again, by this I meant what the world that is relative unreality, because you can shrink it. When you go to sleep, that external world will disappear. But the only reality behind everything is your true imperishable self. This is one concept, if you can take away today, is just that it's permanent, is our consciousness, our self. And we are all privy to that 24/7, and all we have to do is connect with it and remove the impurities clouding it. Self-inquiry reveals that the ego is non-existent. Again, the real alone alone exists. True happiness is found only in the self and not in external objects. Liberation is realizing the eternal self, after which one becomes beyond the limitations of birth and death. Friends, all religions, especially the Vedantic truth, expresses this concept very clearly. Even heaven and hell are only temporary resting places for one, and then after experiencing the good or the bad, you're pushed back again into this external world where you again have to live your life. But the permanency where you're beyond this repeated births and deaths is only through the realization of the eternal self. Again, the world is again perceived only through ignorance. To know the self ends this delusion. And self is revealed in silence. Ramana Maharshi keeps emphasizing silence, and that silence is the highest form of teaching. And that's why, and silence is the only method through which experience is transmitted to somebody. He was fond of expounding on a Vedantic philosophy. First, there is this supreme knowledge and energy. From that comes a source or a teacher. And then the next thing is the spoken word. And then, the written word and then the spoken word. So Ramana Maharshi was very fond of saying, if the written word can have so much energy, imagine how much silence would. For only in the silence there would be absolute clarity, right? Just as in your library, the silence is a prime quality, right? So I also want to bring that silence into your life at certain time of the day. Friends, concluding the verse 40, the ultimate truth is that the self alone exists. The consciousness alone exists. And the world is just a mere projection, a mere illusion. And all we have to do is not reject the world fully, but to perform our activities with not attaching to the results of our actions. We should embrace the results of our action with the same dispassion. We should not be elated, nor should we be dejected, and should know that we are better than all this, for we have the universal consciousness within each one of us. We just don't know it, but we will know, hopefully by practicing self-inquiry and any spiritual path that you find conducive in your lives. And thank you for your attention, and I'll be open for questions.
Sorry if I may. I was listening to this, and of course I have read and studied and practiced to the best of my ability. But I was just thinking of all the students sitting here, and I was imagining myself being, second year, third year of engineering. And if I practice something in which it's promised that my mind will vanish, how do I put this teaching into practice to help me to become an engineer and have ambitions and a career and competition? How does it help me in that practical way? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. And some brilliant minds had asked me that questions. They asked me about if thoughts disappear, then what will happen? So I'm not trying to make you, through these teachings, trying to imply you to be sitting doing nothing or in a forest. Ramana Maharshi, as I said, and I also mentioned to them in that talk, that he wants you also to have the best careers that you want, to be the best engineers, to be the best entrepreneurs, job creators that you had. But you can do that without the mental clutter. This is the misconception. Ramana Maharshi one famous saying was, Summa iru, that is, be still. Now, didn't mean that he advocated laziness or indolence. In fact, what it is that you do your education, your service, whatever, knowing that there is a bigger source behind the mind. So they are all not going to become blank by pursuing the self-inquiry. In fact, they're going to become better students, calmer, they'll ace every exam because there is no fear. For they know that there's something better. At 18, 19, I wish I could answer the oral exams as well as I could write my theory. Because when I used to see Professor like Professor James, my lips would, just get sealed, because of that fear that ego would come and, oh my God. And, you go in hoping that I hope they don't ask me that question. And that will be the first question that the professor would ask. And then after that, it's just downhill afterwards. But so coming back, jokes aside, the mind is not here Ramana Maharshi distinguishes between a Shuddha Manas and the ego, ahankar. So when we go looking for the source of the ego, and then when what disappears, or it weakens the hold of this ego on our self, then our true self, the consciousness, starts shining more. So then somebody asked me, what about intuition? And this intuition is nothing but the power of the self, the consciousness. You start doing things on your own correctly more and more. And the other thing is the mental clutter goes away. Say, for example, if I was a practicing doctor and I saw somebody and I'm tired, I need my coffee break. Why is this? Because that's a mind. But if I'm beyond that, I look at each patient as an opportunity to serve. And then my diagnosis would be better, the outcomes would be better for both the patient and for me. So here we want them to be better engineers, better, grasp all the concepts at one go. Because a lot of time when you bear me out, when you look at the huge textbook, the first, that itself prevents you from opening, right? And reading. It's just your ego saying, oh my God, how hard it is, or something like that. Or you hear your so-called well-wisher tell you, Arey, bahut mushkil hai. And then it's a story you live with. But if you are fresh, you'll be like, dekha jayega. I will go for this subject and I'll see for myself. And then, so and then as what Ramana says is, when the self-inquiry, when the ego disappears, then the awareness is what remains. And that will guide us. The example he gives is of a child that goes to sleep and the mother feeds that child. And the child has eaten in sleep and gone to sleep. But next day morning, the child says, Mummy, you didn't feed me. But the child was fed by the mother. But similarly, because actions go on its accord. Like other example, Ramana Maharshi used to say is the village women carrying water on their, pots of water on their head. So even while carrying it, they'll be gossiping, they'll be walking, they'll be doing something else, where the water would be on their head. So similarly, you can balance that, that activities of this world can carry on while without this background noise. So the mind, but when we say this, mind, then we're giving, there is a concept, it is Shuddha Manas, and that is nothing but our consciousness, but that will be guiding us, and that intellect. And finally, the purpose for which we are all put on this earth. That's another categorical statement of Ramana Maharshi. The purpose for which you were born on this earth. If you were to become CEO of Google, you're going to be that. Nobody can stop you from doing that. And so this will only enhance it. This is not the way we're not trying to take them away from education or put them in a state of blankness. In fact, it is not shunya, it is purna. On this path, they're all going to be more full, more permanent. So I think they'll all have brilliant careers, without that background of the noise, which kind of limits us. So, and I think a few of them did get the concept, because most of them are here today. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm very much attracted by the statement more than once in these 40 verses that self reveals in silence.
Yes.
And it sounds very simple and easy way. But then you are sitting in silence, but then what about these thoughts that come and appear and disappear?
Yes. Thank you. So silence, as we saw, is more than absence of noise. And it is where, with our self-inquiry principles, we reduce the flow of thoughts of the mind. So it is mental silence that is meant, where absence of thoughts is, or at least paucity of thoughts, very little thoughts, is the true silence we are. Because as I mentioned, I've lived in the West. I've lived in neighborhoods where you don't see a human being on a weekend if you don't need to. But the people are not self-realized in those neighborhoods. In fact, if anything, they're clamoring for a person to talk with, or have a drink of alcohol with, or something, whatever you say. So coming back, so absence of physical noise is not the silence we are talking about, sir, but the true mental concept, the andar ki shanti, inner shanti, atma ki shanti. That is where we are absent, where the mental background noise is absent, and that is the true silence that we are, and that will come, with practice, sir. Like everything, as we keep asking, to whom are these thoughts coming, and then we turn inwards and look for the transmitter that is giving out all the thoughts. The transmitter runs away and leaving behind us in silence. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Is non-duality not the answer?
So that's So this is another concept Ramana Maharshi brought, that both the opposites, he said in that self, both knowledge and ignorance is contained. So somebody asks, why should ignorance be part of the knowledge? So he said, so that you know that you don't know. So that is, so ignorance is attached to that knowledge, and in a smaller form, but to know that that we don't know. So, but another concept is in this Atman, is beyond both, because it is present both in a dualistic worship and in a non-dualistic worship. It is common to each one. So that is the theme, that when we start worshipping God, we worship them as whatever forms we like, Shakti, Devi, Kali Mata, or any Shiva. But then as we go closer and closer or whatever, we become one with that God. So, but that self, that consciousness was present during both these states, when we were relatively non-dual and relatively non-dual, and when we are non-dual. So and it is beyond those concepts. But anything that is real will also contain everything. So, but it is just that as we go along in this path, we get closer and closer to truth, and then our true non-dual self appears. So that is the concept Maharshi says, that in the self, the consciousness has ignorance also contained in it. Yeah.
Anyone?
I think we'll end. No. Thank you for being here, and have a great weekend.
No, but those of you who want to stay, we are not done with the session yet. It is just that anyone who needs to catch a class or something, we are letting them go. Rest of you stay, don't disturb. And we are going to continue with the question answer for a few more minutes.
Thank you.
In fact, if some questions have come up to any of your mind, students in particular, you are welcome to ask the questions. Excuse the students because of the
No, I
timings
totally
and
understand.
everything. But we will continue. So now we have a more committed, elderly set of people. So we can benefit from this opportunity, and we'll continue the interaction. And so please feel free to ask any question. Oh, before you, there's one student at the back. I'll give him the opportunity and I'll definitely come to you. Thank you.
So yeah, hello. So
Yeah.
hi,
Hello.
I am Kundanathan,
Yes.
a PhD student here at IIT Delhi. So I observed that you are actually talking of two things in the beginning. That is, Ramana have two approaches. One is the intellectual way of asking who am I. Another one is that giving a sarnagadi sort of stuff.
Yes.
So yes, surrender thing. Yes. So I am interested on the first intellectual thing of asking who am I. Can you give some words about it? How we actually lived in that realm, not in the second realm.
Okay, sure. So there are two fundamental questions he said we should ask ourselves when we get thoughts. So there are few basic concepts that ego is nothing, our mind is nothing but a collection of thoughts. Okay, they come and disappear, and once we look for their source, where they are. So we have to, whenever we get a thought, we should not give life. The thoughts don't have a life of their own. We are the ones, our mind is one that gives life to it. So instead of pursuing any thought that comes, like for example, there is my phone or something, and I know just the story that we can. So instead of that, ask to whom is this, who's looking for this phone? And then and again with practice, you don't even have to ask that question. You will recognize an unnecessary, unwanted thought, and you'll be able to nip it in the bud. So that it's almost like a ticker stateful going in front of you. We get around 60,000 random thoughts a day. When we are able, with practice, with this practice of self-inquiry, reduce it to say 20,000, and will be so fresh, and or the mind would be really fresh, because as you know, the brain consumes the most glucose of any tissue in the body, 3.5 times that of muscle. So you can see how much mental energy, if it is used, is so good, but unnecessary mental energy can be such a fatiguing thing, So we ask these two questions: to whom this is happening, and then after that you say, from where in this body is this source of this ego? Which is this one which is keeps sending all these projections into my mind? So when you look and scrutinize deeply, you will find that there's no such thing, because the imposter ego, when you look for it, will disappear. This is the basic method of self-inquiry. And then when the ego's control over our body disappears, we will start seeing glimpses of clarity of our universal self. And initially even you'll feel it, perceive it in your, what spiritually is called the heart, the spiritual heart, the hridayam. In fact, even Old Testament saying the fool's heart is on the left and the wise one's is on the right. So this is probably recognized by all religions, where that that the resting place of the Atman is so. But overall, after a stage, it becomes universal all over your body. You don't even have to make it a focus of your meditation, but because you'll start feeling in your silence, you'll start feeling the universal consciousness of Atman. So our job is only two things. One is to, first of all, initially, like everything needs the power of habit, right? So we have to start giving some certain times of the day for sadhana. And the best times, Ramana Maharshi advised a Western devotee, Humphreys, was in the morning and before retiring, on waking up from the bed and retiring, before retiring to the bed. And then quietly sit in a fixed place and in silence, and look for your racing of your mind, and try to try to reduce your thoughts, and then also look for the source of your ego. And then over practice this who am I this is a practice of self-inquiry. You will start becoming a different person. You will see that many things that scared you are nothing, but the only thing to be fear is fear itself. You lose fear, and you'll be a confident person where consciousness will take over your life. And then the self will start guiding you, and you'll start living with in the self. This is Atma Vichara, the process of thing. And again, there are methods. When you look at a thought, the first thought that comes is the I thought. That is, I am Ramanan, used to be a doctor, I'm in IIT and all. You strip that thoughts, those what we call upadhis, to this I thought. And then you become this I thought will become weaker and weaker. It will become more pure. Then again you start looking, so you slow down the nature of your I thoughts. Then you start looking at where it starts coming. And then you leave it loses the control over you. Then what you start seeing glimpse is of the self. And then you take it from there, and we'll talk at the next time.
Yeah. One more question, Dr. Ramanan, from a student here.
Yeah, sure.
You are a student, right?
Thank you, sir, for a very enlightful talk. I am Shivani. I am a PhD student in School of Information Technology. Just like you talked about having about decluttering the mind, reduce the background noise, and indulging in the karma that we are doing. What we have experienced is, in order to declutter, at the same time, there are cycles of happiness and sadness / pain that's happening over the course of time. And that is affecting the clutter of the mind more. And in one of the verses, it is also said that we need to experience the things, and then I'm not sure, but I interpreted in that way, that we need to experience to get closer to the reality. But in that course of experience, there are cycles of happiness and sadness and all that's happening, and that's adding to the clutter of the mind. So is it the way that we need to go beyond this cycle of happiness and sadness and go more closer to the reality, or how do we navigate, basically?
Good question. See, the term where you use sorrow and the right term is not happiness, because happiness has no opposites. What you meant by that state of, what you think happiness is, a state of pleasure. And Ramana Maharshi says that soon will follow, pain will follow. remember in the school, the class we talked about the 4 mangoes. The first mango gives you so much happiness. The second mango, half the happiness. Third mango, little bit of tummy ache. The fourth one would make you in agony. So if that was the truth, the fourth mango should have given you 4 times more happiness than a thing. So what we think of happiness is nothing but pleasure. Here, what I mentioned is happiness. So you are going to meet, you're going to meet valleys and mountains, and so that you cannot escape. So what Ramana Maharshi said, that most of this is predestined. So then somebody said, then what should I do? So he said, the only thing that you can do is not be attached to the result of your actions. So say, for example, you did the best on a paper and you didn't get the grades that or you got better grades than what you got. You neither show, elation nor sorrow. And the other choice we have in our life, because everything in life is predestined. The other only thing free will is doing spirituality and going inwards. That is not destined. That you have to create time, you have to create circumstances, you have to recognize the illusory nature of the world, and you have to say that you are created for a higher purpose, and you have to go after that pursuit of reality. So in that slide, that's not what I meant. The meaning is that, but see, the self contains everything, as she asked. It contains both the ignorance as well as the knowledge. For something that is pure will have everything contained in it. But as you said, that thoughts, that pain and pleasure is what leads to more thoughts, right? So in that itself, there is an answer for you. So the thoughts are the ones that are giving you the pain and pleasure. So Ramana Maharshi's teaching is all to go at the root of everything. That's why he said even mindfulness, where is a very temporary state. Because once you wake up from deep meditation, the thoughts come twice as much, thrice as much, because you only temporarily lulled your thoughts by silent meditation. It helps, but you have to go a state beyond it, looking for the source of permanent happiness, the self-inquiry. So the root cause is, if you find these life experiences leads to more pain and more pleasure, that is the answer for you. So you are creating the story of your life, and that is created, before what... Good. So like this noise, it's very temporary. So even your elation and unhappiness is, if you look it in the eye, it will disappear. Because what is permanent is your happiness. So to answer your question, please look at it, rephrase it. It is all the story of life, and only by going to the root of it, that the mind is what is creating this illusion of sorrow and happiness, and you can control your emotions. You can minimize the effect that the mind plays on it. And the only method is ask your question, to whom is this unhappiness? To whom is this sorrow? And then look keenly inwards, and you'll find that there's nothing, it was just a phantom, and that you are much beyond all this. These dualities and all these illusions created on your mind. Okay,
Dr. Ramanan, thank you. Now, I think another student, so last question.
Sure.
If no one else is insisting on asking a question, otherwise we will maybe also continue after the formal session is over. We can still have a set of discussion. So for the formal part, the last question.
Hello, sir. I am Sushil Kumar from third year electrical engineering. I have a question that from where we start our life from when we are born, we perceive different things from our nature, environment till now. But in one of the verses, you told us that there is nothing beyond us in the world. The everything is our just projection of our mind. So I have a question that is it not worth interacting with the environment, with my family or everything, every people in my neighborhood, all people with I know? So
Yeah.
clear.
Good question. So again, if you say your circumstances, right? So in reality, for something to be true, it should be true all the time. So now in this classroom, where is your environment? Where are your parents? It's only you, right? And you. So tomorrow, say you catch a flight and go abroad, and obviously that circumstances, do they become reality? Or then you move from one city to life, does that become reality? Those are all relative reality, because they are there during when you are awake. But what Ramana Maharshi wants to say is that the world by itself is temporary reality or a partial reality. It is only real fully when you as a self participate with it, with the self playing the central role in it. So what by mean it is, like say you're the electrical engineer. So even while working, you have to know that things come and go, but the one reality behind everything is the supreme self, the Atman. So we saw that Ramana Maharshi did not want you to not do well in your life, but just realize that this thoughts you'll realize that even your parents are a thought, because a relative thought, because when they are away, so many miles away, where are they? But wherever you are there, right? Your reality. So when you look at the world through that senses, that this is the supreme reality, you'll find that we will lead. You'll be a better son. You'll be a better student and all, because now you're guided by the infinite wisdom of the self. Okay.
Dr. Ramanan, now I'm compelled to let two more questions come in, because the questions are quite deep. So one is from my TA. So she kind of has been helping with the course throughout. So I think I cannot deny her the opportunity to ask a question.
Sure,
and then
sure.
I will let her also ask.
Sure. No, I'm fine. I have nothing better to do.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for this beautiful
and this is
presentation,
fun.
sir. So my question is that we discussed that self is beyond body, mind, and thought,
Yes.
and the ego dissolves through the practice of silence. So a very simple question, that when the ego dissolves and when the mind dissolves, what or who is there to experience the experiencer, or to the experience of realization or self?
Yes.
Who is there to experience that?
Very good question. So the experiencer was always there. Okay. So what you were thinking, the body and the mind was the one that was experiencing, but the true experiencer was the Ulladu, the inner principle, the self. Now you only moved your light away, your focus, and on the true being. So this is the common misconception, that when the ego goes, the mind goes, we'll be sitting just staring at space in the most dull way. No, it'll be more. The ancient saints, they lived more human lives. In fact, there is a writer, Arthur Osborne. He used to say, it's a paradox of life, that one who gives up life he becomes more lively. The one who runs away from this happiness and all, he's more a source of happiness. So that's a paradox of life, but it's a relative paradox. So all we have done is we have removed the limiting factors of the mind and ego. Again, that's a fundamental thing. You thought that the objects that were perceiving, enjoying this happiness are your mind and your ego. They are not. There's something beyond it. That is our true consciousness, and that will experience and it is eternally happy, and it is going to enjoy that happiness also in the true way. So I hope.
Yeah, I think she's
Yeah.
smiling means signs of satisfaction.
Yeah.
So now I think I cannot deny you the opportunity, because otherwise I'll be seen being partial to my students.
Thank you so much for the insightful words. Sir, my question is that in Who Am I, Maharshi Ramana says that negate things. I'm not this, I'm not that. However, your lordship just said that why to negate so millions of things and come back to us. So I have a confusion that how to assess what we are, and is whether a self is a feeling, emotion, it comes in a day, at night, should we focus that, yeah, this is self, and how to go about it basically?
Yes. So Maharshi says he advocates this that to whom this thought is. What I meant was the neti, that is, I'm not this, I'm not this. No, he said even that is at the state of the mind. So Atma Vichara is not at the state of the mind. It is where you are looking at the objects passing by, and then it's a mental question to slow it down, and you start saying, to whom is this sorrow? To whom is this pain, this elation? That you can do as many times. And some Maharshi says, with practice, you won't even have to keep asking this question. It'll become second nature to you. As soon as something thought comes, you'll be able to still your mind with practice. And again, the next step is to also look when your meditation, where these thoughts are coming. When you sink into that source of thoughts, where the ego and the Atman is almost the same location, but the ego will vanish when you look for it, and what is left behind is the pure source of consciousness. And in that, there is a state of constant stillness and joy. And again, what I'm saying is just words. It is one time people experience it, they say they keep coming back for more and more. That's what the devotees' anecdotes are. One time they experience deathlessness, they don't want to go ever back to the world. So, but again, they live in this world. They live to be 90. Yesterday we're talking about Professor Swaminathan. He had a active career till he was 96. So while practicing self-inquiry. So they didn't stop working. In fact, they worked more than young people. So yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming, everybody.
Have a seat. Wait.
Okay.
We'll call you.
Yeah.
Please have a seat.
Okay.
All right. So now, all of you, I also had some friends, some classmates here. I have new friends from the Kendra here. I have the secretary of Ramana Kendra Delhi here, and I have a very elderly, trustee here with us, whom Dr. Venkat Ramanan fondly refers to as Anna. And we are actually delighted that you could make time to be here, grace the occasion. He's the trustee of Ramanasramam, and he discovered truly something which I heard him speak at the center, which is very unique. that at the age of 50, doing pradakshina around Arunachala, he suddenly discovered that which Neha is trying to understand through words, or which you're trying to get as an experience, he kind of had a direct experience which seems to radiate out of him. At his age of 78, he still is so vibrant and energetic that I cannot say more. So thank you for being with us. And thank you all from the center or from the Kendra. I've been meeting you at the Kendra so many times. It's a pleasure to see you all so engaged, thorough, and also some of you giving up the opportunity to ask questions because you wanted the students to have the opportunity. So thank you for that also. Now I want to request Professor Sri Devi, who is Associate Dean Student Affairs, to deliver the vote of thanks to Dr. Ramanan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Godara. So, I take this wonderful opportunity to thank, of course, Maharshi for allowing me to give this little vote of thanks. And my thanks, sincere thanks to Dr. Venkat Ramana, the president of Ramanasramam. I had the good fortune to visit it once only till now. Let us see if I can get more chances to stay there as well. I extend my thanks to all the senior most member in the Ramana Kendra of Delhi. I also had the good fortune to visit this Ramana Kendra. I think all these blessings are from Sri Ramana Maharshi. When I just stumbled upon the Kendra, I didn't know that the Kendra was there. I went to the opposite social science center for some interview committee and all that, and suddenly I saw this Kendra. So I had a lot of peace even in this Kendra. That was the first thing. And thanks extended to all my intelligent children who are still here, hanging around, and very, very important questions, asking very important questions. I thank all the other visitors besides the Kendra. I think my own IIT Delhi colleagues here. And thanks are due to our technical people here who patiently have recorded. Thank you once and all. And I hope that we have an opportunity to hear to the supplementary on the 40 verses that was written by Arthur Osborne from Dr. Venkat Ramana someday, which are equally good. Thank you very much. Bye.
Very good.